By starting Berserk in medias res, Miura introduced many things like the protagonist and his goals, and the antagonist, and many world-building aspects that move forward the plot and the characters' arcs. The only mystery left is to know why Guts is on a revenge spree and what Griffith did. Berserk starts with a sexy scene. My god, I'm 12 years old. To introduce the reader to the world. There's monsters, violence, nudity. Beyond being a perfect introduction to how the world works, it is also a great first scene for Guts. He's willing to do anything to achieve his goals, even have sexy time with a demon. Although, given his backstory, it's hard to say the sexy scene makes sense character-wise, especially since Guts doesn't even like to be touched. Guts finds ruffians taunting a very beloved character. Being lively, Puck is the perfect juxtaposition to Guts' brooding spirit, creating a delightful stark contrast. The elf is also a great connection between the reader and Guts, as he also explains what he feels, perhaps being part of his powers, and reacts similarly to the reader. At least I did. Besides exposing the violent world of Berserk, Guts gains points with the reader by saving Puck, even though it wasn't his main objective. He is an anti-hero, and Miura did his best to accentuate this in this first arc. Since actions have consequences, Guts is captured for murdering some guards. Without the guards, the city can't defend itself against the Snake Lord. Luckily for the townsfolk, Guts is looking to kill as many apostles as possible. In some characters' eyes, Guts becomes the hero they need. Being arrested, Puck finds Guts to release him. According to the elf, he is paying a debt. When Guts confesses that he accidentally saved him, Puck leaves, crying. Guts leaves to quench his bloodthirst after learning an apostle is nearby through the brand. So we only know that the brand is a sort of alarm for demons nearby, which is a great way to introduce this key plot point. Beyond trying to be his friend, Puck is crucial in advancing Guts' story. Often, Puck will help him as much as Guts will save him. In the next chapter, Puck finds him wounded, barely standing. Guts makes an effort to shun Puck, claiming to dislike elves. He is an established loner, but not because he dislikes Puck. After meeting a priest and his daughter, Guts finally lets his guard down for a moment. Although he warns them about evil spirits pursuing him, they take him on their wagon. Feeling safe in the wagon, Guts falls asleep, and he wakes up to demons attacking the wagon. At this moment, the reader understands why he's a loner. Not because he's a cliché tough guy, but because he knows his presence endangers others. Although a bit of a brute, the reader can't help but feel a little empathy towards Guts at this point. As readers, we can see that he's able of basic human interactions, but doing so will sentence the people he likes to their deaths. His brand is a magnet for tragedy. Guts has difficulty processing his feelings, blaming the old man and his daughter for their own deaths. As Guts sees it, they are weak, so he suppresses the grief. Puck understands this, like we do, thus sticking by Guts to heal his wounds and keep him company. He is the only character who survived the demon attacks thus far. When Puck realizes Vargas was captured to be executed and tells Guts, he doesn't do anything. Guts is smart enough to know it's a trap to lure him, refusing to save Vargas. Ironically, Puck behaves more like the hero with pure intentions, while Guts behaves like the selfish antagonist. In a desperate attempt to save Vargas, Puck flies into the executioner to distract him. Vargas dies anyway, fueling Guts' rage and sadness. Not only does Puck represent Guts' need for social interactions to keep his sanity, but also as a detector for Guts' insecurities and fears. Puck underlines what Guts needs to do, which contradicts his wants. Should he be vulnerable with someone, they might end up dead for being too weak. As Guts puts it, he is in denial, suffering, and Puck wants to help him. The first fight we see is a sort of teaser for the fights to come. Often, Guts is treated like a ragdoll in his fights, though he manages to succeed. Not portraying a traditional anime battle leaves space for more empathy for Guts. He bleeds as any of us would. At this time, his fights are mostly not in his favor. Despite being a terrific swordsman, disregarding his well-being, Guts is a mortal man, fighting beings who have otherworldly skills. His fights reveal the gist of his arc, since he's searching for the God Hand and killing their apostles for revenge. The way he treats his foes reveals much about how he feels about the God Hand and his foes' nature. We know a hero wouldn't take matters into hand like this. Puck, like us, is an intriguing man, hurt by a tragedy that propels him to act recklessly. Guts is hanging on by his remaining humanity due to his revenge. In the Count storyline, Guts fights the Count and Zondark, and here we start to understand what Guts is up against. In the first confrontation between Guts and Femto, we see how weak and desperate Guts truly is. He tries to slash at Femto, even feeling pain due to the brand, but to no avail. He is strong, but he is not at the level of the God Hand. Guts can't even touch him, accentuating his fragile mortality. As readers, we realize that Guts' recklessness is needed to fight these beings, risking all to defeat them. That has been how Guts managed to survive his whole life. Revenge is the most crucial plot point in Berserk, though not without substance. So far, it's nothing like The Last of Us 2. Actually, we may never know how Berserk ends. Although in medias res, we see why this revenge is so pivotal for Guts. Guardian Angels of Desire 1 present an important character for Guts' revenge, the Count. In a straightforward way, Guts sends the Count a declaration of war by showing him the brand of sacrifice. Then he slaughters many of the Count's guards, getting in trouble again. A short, hideous man hates Guts' escape, having had his eye on him while he taunted the Count. That man is Vargas, who was a physician until the Count robbed him of his family and life, including his face and legs. Guts goes off the rails when asked if he seeks revenge. It's pretty clear by now. Despite being mistreated, Vargas understands Guts' desire, letting them see why he'd want revenge. Vargas confirms that the Count is a demon who eats human flesh. Perhaps to seek approval and support, Vargas shows them a behelit. He explains how the Count turned into a demon when the behelit appeared, and that he kept on eating more and more people, Vargas being one of them. He admits having researched for 7 years about the behelit, but never having found anything. Guts tells him it's a key to another world, one infested with demons, where the God Hand are. At an appropriate pace, we get to know more about the Behelit. A strength in Miura's writing is that he usually introduces the devices of his low magic system quite slowly and in a subtle way, usually through dialogue or the visuals. The Count got the Behelit by chance, buying it from a caravan of merchants. Of course, this is important to know, as other characters will come by other Behelits in the same way. The low magic system is consistent in this. Then they plot to enter the castle, as Vargas is familiar with it and has a map. He's been waiting for that day for the last 7 years. Instead of rebuilding his life, Vargas had a sad, pathetic life in search for revenge. He is a reminder of all the negative aspects of revenge, mirroring Guts. Guts has also lost an eye, an arm, and other parts of his life we have yet to see. Even though he can see what revenge can do, with Vargas right in front of him, Guts continues to go forward with his revenge. He takes the Behelit away from Vargas, claiming it as a payment for avenging him by killing the Count. Saying farewells, Puck says one of the themes of Berserk, living for the future, is far more important than trying to avenge the past. This is quite ironic because it's what Guts needs to acknowledge for his own sake. Right after that, Vargas is dragged away by the Count and dies. The first sign of guilt over not saving Vargas when he had the chance is the demon fetus with Vargas's face. So far, we don't know much about this demon fetus's origin. All we know is its tragic connotation, since it haunts him in his nightmares. Perhaps because of this, Guts searches for Vargas's body to say goodbye. The look in your eyes, filled with a vengeance. I won't fail like you. He sees himself in Vargas, though Guts refuses to admit he might too fail in search for his revenge, as the human being he is. Many spirits, other victims of the Count, come out to try to take over Guts' body for revenge. As he chases them away, Guts pours out his feelings for the first time. You and I got nothing in common. You're nothing but worthless scum. His vengeance is taking over at this point of the story, killing apostles and doing anything to reach the God Hand. He screams at the vengeful spirits in denial that he is one of them. So in the last few chapters, we know for sure how Guts is, how he works. And at the end, we know one very important thing. That is, demons have a human origin. The Count gifts his daughter Puck in a cage, so he still has some remnants of his previous life. He still wants his daughter to be safe and happy, even though in a twisted way, because he imprisoned Theresia in her room. Alone, Theresia releases Puck from his cage and tells him about when her father changed, the day her mother died, which coincides with Vargas' story. Berserk reiterates its world is filled with death and tragedy. At last, Guts confronts the Count. During their fight, they destroy the castle, crumbling the door to Theresia's room. Upon seeing her father's true form, Theresia is terrified, having her suspicions confirmed. The Count reacts in shame, crying even. As the scummy, desperate man Guts is at this point, he uses Theresia as a shield. After blasting him with his arm cannon, Guts forces the girl to look at the remainder of her father's body. The Count is still alive, crying. It made me feel so bad for Theresia that I felt hate for Guts. He was perpetuating the cycle of violence he wished never happened in the first place. The culmination of events leads to the fulfillment of Guts' goal, to awaken the Behelit and face Femto. The plot revelation is different than what I would have done or wished to have happened. They reveal right away that Femto is Griffith, and to play with that question for a while would have been entertaining and quite shocking to know later on in the story. It's shocking to discover betrayals like Aizen's or Saruman's case. We also comprehend that the protagonist is much less powerful than the antagonist, teasing that Berserk will show us the progress Guts will have to make to face Femto. It's a trope commonly used in shonen and fantasy, making us sympathize more with the characters who go through so much hard work. For the Count to keep his life, he must offer a sacrifice. At first he offers Guts, but he needs to sacrifice Theresia as a sacrificial offering for the invocation of doom. Not every lump of flesh and blood will do. There has to be a great emotional connection with the sacrifice. We know Griffith fucked up real hard to become a god hand. To be a demon, they must sacrifice what makes them human. If not obvious enough, the demons tell Theresia that the Count sacrificed her mother to be a demon, but after he discovered she was unfaithful, the Count hesitates to sacrifice his daughter, even though he sees that his fate is to suffer in death. The God Hand pressure him to choose. Hesitating until his last breath, the Count doesn't sacrifice his daughter. He is consumed into the soul vortex, dragged away assumingly by the souls he hurt. Guts, Puck and Theresia are transported back to the castle, where Theresia has a breakdown. Rightfully so, after all the awful truths she learned. As the idiot he is, Guts encourages her. The ground collapses beneath her. Guts extends his blade to save her, and she hangs on, so unconsciously wanting to live. Not only did Guts show her the truth of her life, of who her parents were, but ironically gave her a reason to live, even though unconsciously and by a coincidence. After seeing Theresia's reaction, wanting to kill him, Guts finally realizes what a jackass he's been. The consequences of his actions culminate in Theresia. In a way, Theresia's life changed drastically because of Guts' revenge. All did change since he appeared, except he also taught her that everything comes with a price. Theresia is free to explore the world, even though the price was to know the hurtful truth about her parents. Vargas, the vengeful spirits, the Count and Theresia's arcs mirror Guts. Because he saw how Theresia reacted, it's safe to assume that his character evolved to a state where he realizes the negative consequences of revenge. So at the end of the Black Swordsman Arc, Guts is less of an asshole. After reading all of the volumes available for Berserk, in my opinion, the first arc isn't the highest point in this story, but also not the lowest, so give it a try. I have to also mention how it's remarkable that I just finished all the volumes and see how Miura's art style evolved to the better. Like, the latest art in Berserk is like mind-blowing. And may Kentaro Miura rest in peace.